The things that carry us through the difficult times are rarely the things we would predict. They are not usually the grand accomplishments or the remarkable experiences. They are something smaller, something private, something that could easily go unnoticed if we were not paying a particular kind of attention to our own lives. But when you find it, the specific small thing that actually holds you in the middle of everything, you understand why it matters, and you hold it accordingly. Natalie Wood was, by the time she was 20, one of the most recognized faces in American cinema. She had been acting since childhood, appearing in film before most people her age had formed their first memories, and she had grown up, in the peculiar way that only child actors can, in the full view of the American public. The transition from child star to serious actress was one she navigated with unusual skill, landing the kinds of roles in her 20s, Rebel Without a Cause, Splendor in the Grass, West Side Story, that many actresses spend entire careers hoping for. She was, in the most visible sense, someone who had everything. The talent, the beauty, the career, the attention. But the life behind the visible one was considerably more complicated. She had been placed in front of cameras when she was too young to understand what that meant, by a mother who was both deeply devoted and deeply ambitious in ways that had sometimes served Natalie and sometimes not. She carried, through her adult life, anxieties that the screen success could not quite address. She had a well-documented fear of dark water, which people who knew her understood as something deeper, a general vulnerability to being overwhelmed, to circumstances that felt out of control. And she had experienced, in her private life, the particular difficulty of finding genuine stability inside a world that tended to treat everything as material for publicity. What she talked about, when she talked about what carried her, was not the work, though she loved the work. Not the recognition, though she valued it. It was something much smaller. She talked about mornings, specifically the first hour of the morning before the phone calls and the demands and the business of being a public person reasserted themselves. The hour when she could simply be present in her own home, with the people she loved, with the particular quiet that belongs to mornings that haven't been claimed yet. She described it as the hour that set everything else right, the hour she protected, even when the schedule made protecting it difficult. And within that hour, she named something even more specific, the sound of her children's voices in the early morning. The particular quality of the house when the children were in it and awake, not the organized, scheduled quality of the school day morning, but the more free, more random, more purely alive quality of a Saturday morning when no one had anywhere to be. She said she could not explain exactly why that particular thing carried so much for her, but that when she was in it, when the house had that quality, and she was in it, not managing it, but simply in it, something settled in her that nothing else quite settled. The anxiety that lived at the background of her ordinary days receded, and she felt, very simply, glad. Glad. Not achieved, not recognized, not secure, just glad. For the specific, ordinary morning. For the children's voices. For the particular smallness of the moment and the particular largeness of what it contained. Maybe you know something like that. Maybe there's a small thing in your own life, something so ordinary that you rarely think to name it, that carries you in a similar way. Something that, when it is present, produces a quality of gladness that larger things do not reliably produce. The specific chair in the specific room at a specific time of day. The sound of someone familiar moving around in the next room. A particular view from a window in a particular kind of light that you have looked at so many times that you almost don't see it anymore, and that, on the mornings when you do see it, is almost more than you know what to do with. Those are the things worth naming, worth noticing more deliberately. Not because they are surprising, they aren't. Not because they are rare, they recur week after week in the texture of an ordinary life. But because they are the things that actually carry you. And the things that carry you deserve your conscious gratitude, not just their background presence in a life too busy to fully receive them. Natalie Wood's gladness was not an intellectual position. It was not a practice of cultivated thankfulness, or a discipline she maintained through conscious effort. It was something more immediate than that. A recognition in the moment of something real, and the willingness to let that recognition land, to not move past it before it had been felt. To sit in the Saturday morning with the children's voices and actually be there, actually glad, actually receiving the specific, ordinary miracle of it. She spoke, in an interview from her later years, about what she wanted her children to know. And what she said was unexpected from someone who had spent her professional life being known for the grand gestures of cinema, the dramatic scenes, the large emotions, the moments of full-throttle feeling that defined her best roles. She said she wanted them to know how to be glad for small things. How to find, in the ordinary textures of an ordinary day, the particular gladness that the extraordinary rarely delivers. Because the extraordinary comes rarely, she said, and the ordinary is always there. And the life you live is made of ordinary. And if you can be glad for the ordinary, genuinely, specifically, in the moment, then you have something the extraordinary can't give you. You have the whole of your life already filled with what you need. The whole of your life already filled with what you need. That is the wisdom she carried. Not born from ease, her life was not easy, but earned through the experience of finding that the large things were not sufficient, and that what actually sustained her was something much closer to home. Maybe you found something like that too. Maybe you know, in some part of yourself, what the specific small thing is that carries you. And maybe you have been moving past it, day after day, without quite pausing to acknowledge it, without quite being fully there for it, without quite letting the gladness it produces be as large as it actually is. This week might be a good week to pause for it. Not for a long time, just long enough to be actually in it, to notice the specific thing, whatever it is for you, and to let the noticing carry the warmth it deserves. To say, even just to yourself in the quiet, "This is good. I am glad this is here. That is the whole of gratitude in its most genuine form. And it is available to you in some small form in almost every ordinary morning. So take a slow breath and find the thing, the specific, small, private thing that actually carries you. And let yourself be glad for it, completely, without moving past it before the gladness has landed. Natalie Wood held on to hers through everything, and it held her back. That exchange, the gladness you bring to the small thing, and the steadiness the small thing brings to you, is available every morning. You only have to stop long enough to make it real. There is something else worth naming about the small joys, about how they tend to work across time. When you notice them once, when you stop, even briefly, and actually let the gladness be as large as it is, something changes in how you relate to them going forward. They become more visible, not because they have changed, they were always there, but because the attention you brought to them once created a kind of groove, a place where the noticing is a little easier next time. A recognition that builds over days and weeks into something that begins to look like a practice without ever having been formally named one. Natalie Wood's Saturday mornings, the children's voices, the house with that particular quality, became, over time, the thing she organized the rest of her week around. Not consciously, not as a formal decision, but in the way that the things we most value tend to pull us toward them if we are paying enough attention to know what we most value. She found herself protecting those mornings, turning down things that would have required her to be somewhere else, building her schedule, gradually and without fanfare, around the preservation of the thing that actually carried her. Maybe you could do something like that. Once you know what the specific small thing is, once you have named it, felt it, let the gladness of it land, maybe this is the week to protect it a little more deliberately. Not at great cost, not by turning down everything else, but by making sure that the thing that actually carries you is not the first thing to go when the schedule fills. By treating it as important because it is. By building your days even slightly around the preservation of what you know sustains you. That is wisdom Natalie Wood earned, not from a philosophy book, from her own life. From paying attention to what actually helped and making room for more of it. You can do the same. The small joy is there. It has been there all along. And it will go on being there as long as you make room for it. So make room this week, starting now.